Marty Williams comes back via the bench, which is smart because remember, he hasn't played since the final. He's had surgery, so that probably makes sense.
So they've only lost one time in about 50-something games, 56 I think it is, and that was that World Cup final loss.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of a dial back here. There's a definite look of bomb squad.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
So looking forward to 2 more Rugby Championship tests coming up Sunday morning New Zealand time. All Blacks named this morning. And very fortunate to have our man Tony Johnson on a Friday for the first time. You'll see Tony in a post-match review, obviously, on Monday. But Tony, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got those 2 tests to talk about. We've got the new Sky deal to talk about. We've got a Women's World Cup also. All of that. Let us start with the Sky deal today. Congratulations to Sky, who've nailed down another 5 years of rugby. This is so very important to the business, and it means that yourself, obviously, it's great for everyone that is involved with the production of New Zealand's national game.
Yeah, I guess it's been in the wind for a while and they've been nailing out the final details of it, but it's a really exciting 5 years coming up, Martin, when you consider that there's the first All Black actual tour to South Africa coming up next year with provincial matches, 3 tests in South Africa, and by the sound of it, 1 in London afterwards. That's still being finalised. There's the new Nations Cup at the end of the year. There are 2 Lions tours involved in this deal because obviously in 4 years' time the British and Irish Lions are coming, but 2 years after that, for the first time, we'll have the British and Irish Lions women's team in New Zealand. As well as that, the test matches, there's Super Rugby, there's Aupiki. The NPC is still, all the games are going to be on Sky. Some of them will also be shown on TVNZ, selected games each weekend, which I think people will find exciting, some free-to-air component there, and also Farah Palmer Cup as well. So there's a lot in it. It's a huge deal, and I think we're all pretty excited about it. It's got.
Looking at that All Black side then, as you can see on the screen now, 5 changes, 1 to the start, and that's Parker. Simon Parker gets his All Black debut. Tamaiti, Lord, Satiti and Tupaia come in, and there were some injuries as well as some of these players coming back from injury. Obviously, the attention's going to be on Parker starting at 8. And when you look at that forward pack, I know that De Groot and Newell, if Tamaiti and Lomax are fit, maybe not starting against South Africa, but we're getting closer, Tony, to what I think will be the 8 that front against South Africa. And this All Black forward pack has really taken shape, hasn't it?
And they've beefed it up a bit too with the inclusion of Simon Parker, who's going to play at number 8. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago that he's played a lot of his rugby for the Chiefs at 6, but plays most of his rugby for Northland as an 8. He's played there for the Chiefs in the past. I don't think there'll be any issues with that. He continues this trend towards beefing up the All Black pack because he's a big unit. He's a metre 97, and if you're still living in the 70s, that's about 6'5.5". He's over 120 kg, so he's a big body. He gives you an extra line-out option because he's very good down the tail of the line-out, and he's also a very good runner with the ball in hand. In fact, there are, I think, shades of Liam Squire the way he plays, and we remember Liam Squire, what an effective ball-carrying loose forward he was. Parker, the same, that he uses his frame well. He's got good speed, but he also knows how to run a good angle and just take him into a soft spot in the defence to make the break. So it's an exciting one. I think a lot of us, because Wallace Satiti made such an impact last year, we were kind of expecting that he might be the guy, but I think they were always keen to get Parker into the mix. They couldn't do that against France. They were a bit conservative in their selection for the first test, didn't want to throw too much in the deep end, so he gets his opportunity here, and Satiti comes back via the bench. But it has that effect of continuing to beef up that All Black pack. You mentioned the front rowers. I just think it's a great situation that's developing here where Marty Williams comes back via the bench, which is smart because remember, he hasn't played since the final. He's had surgery, so that probably makes sense to bring him back via the bench. But the other 2 guys, Newell and De Groot, have done really well. And so when Lomax comes back, plus the other guys that are in the mix, the likes of Bauer, Norris and co, Tossi, you've got really good options there, some real genuine depth in that prop position, which we haven't always had.
Kirifi, Duplessis, how unlucky is he? Did he really do anything wrong, or is this just a horses for courses selection? I don't want to say he's been dropped because he's out of the squad, obviously, but Satiti was always coming back in, wasn't he?
No, he hasn't been dropped. It's just a move that they've made, and they'll feel the need to get Satiti back into the action. As I say, he had such a phenomenal impact last year, and if he'd been fully fit, he would have been part of the frontline picture as well. So it's really a restoration of the order that probably they had before some of those injuries started to impact. But it's no slight on Duplessis Kirifi, who, as we said on Monday, the great thing about his performance in that first test was that he just maintained a level right through that match. So he's been introduced to Test rugby. He becomes another factor in the whole equation. But no, I'm not surprised, and I agree with you. I think it is smart to have a lock to be able to come fresh off the bench. Obviously, Tupouva'i has the ability to move into lock from the flank, and we might see that. But having a fresh lock, particularly when you're taking on a big bunch of units like the Pumas team are, I think fresh lock is smart. So Josh Lord, who started off as injury cover, gets to be part of the action. And then, of course, after that, you look at the back line, and they've obviously made that decision to just stick with that same combination and hope to get a more effective performance out of them.
Look, it's a 5-3 split, and I call this what we call a traditional bench, isn't it? You've actually got, you're going to have a couple of props, you're going to have your hooker, but we've also got a specialist lock in there as well. So Quinn Tupaia comes in for ALB, pretty much a straight swap. Where do you think he slots in? Can he play 12 and 13? Do you think that's a possibility? Or is okay, right.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm happy with the 5-3 split. I know the move towards 6-2 has become very popular, or even 7-1. The Springboks have tried that as well, but I just don't think they need to do that because of the versatility of the players that they have. The ability of guys like Satiti, Vai now, even Scott Barrett, who can play 6 if need be. Adi Savia, we know he's equally effective at 8 or 7. So they've got that versatility there. I don't think they need to go for a 6-2 split. They're all superbly fit. I'm of the belief that for a long time now, the All Blacks have had the best fitness or strength and conditioning guy in the business. And so to me, there's no need to stray away from that. They might maybe think about it for a test against the Springboks to match fire with fire. I don't know, but no reason to go away from that. I guess the only thing you'd say is the selection. It is on the side of conservatism because you and I both talked about it. I would have loved to have seen Carter get a run, just see if he could spark something from the left wing, or it would have been interesting to see Kyle Preston coming off the bench. But look, there's a job to be done. They win this test match. Who knows what's going to happen in South Africa? But just say the Springboks do come back and square the ledger with Australia. A win in this test becomes really important because it means the All Blacks can come home, face 3 of the last 4 games at home, and they already have a lead in the championship. So I think that first and foremost, they want to get the job done against Argentina, who will bounce back, no doubt, will be determined to try and square things up in the second test in Buenos Aires. But also, I think they just want to keep some momentum going. But as I say, it just means that there's probably, 6, 7, 8 players have gone over there and haven't seen a slice of the action.
Which is a shame,
As John Drake used to say, that's golf.
Well, the thing is, Tony, and look, there's been a lot of chitter-chatter all week, and I love it. I love the engagement that we're getting here on the DSPN as well, and a lot of fans wanting to see Carter, wanting to see Tavatava Nawai. It's just, if I'm sitting here putting my Scott Robertson hat on at the moment, you want to give these guys a run, but the way that the All Black season is structured and everything else, the fact we don't have those longer tours where you can blood these guys, because these guys would be playing midweek matches. If we had what we used to call tours, they'd be in and if we were in South Africa next year, they would be playing those Wednesday games, no question. So I suppose long-winded question is, where do you get them game time at some stage they've got a baptism, don't they? They've got to jump into the All Blacks, but just when does that happen? Is it now going to be delayed until the end of the year?
Well, I think most of the guys who haven't featured in this series will come back and go straight into NPC rugby because they do need game time. But I wouldn't underestimate the value of having them there on the ground in Argentina. Firstly, they like to have at least one session a week where it's a live situation, particularly when you're putting scrums down. You want to be able to put two packs down, have some meaningful practice, or your line-out drive, which has obviously been so successful. And particularly those newer guys, they're learning the ropes. They're learning about the feel of what it's like to be part of the All Black environment. So I wouldn't underestimate the value that they get from being in that situation with the team in another country, part of the mechanism. They will always say that every single player has a role to play, even if they're not in the 23 for the game. Right. But getting that team ready for the test and being part of the mechanism, if you like, on game day.
2 to go then, and we'll let you go. Okay, Box, you mentioned before, Cape Town against Australia. I will happily predict, as I did at the start of this show again, that the Springboks are going to win this. And again, I'm happy to be proved wrong on that, but I just think that the changes that they've made, I can't see them making the same errors that they did last time. I can't see them going away from their traditional way of playing. And I think the introduction of Pollard, to me, makes an enormous difference. So, go Australia. I mean, good God, if they can turn around and win again in Cape Town, that would just be remarkable, Tony. That would actually shatter everything we think about international rugby, but I just can't see it. You?
I wouldn't rule out the possibility because they've taken so much confidence from their last 2 test matches. There'll be a real belief in that. They've been together on the ground in South Africa. That can often be the making of a team, a situation like that. They've had to make a few changes. Australia has, but look, they lose Harry Wilson, but they get Ballatini back. Lungy Gleeson is back in the mix as well. Little bit, I think the loss of Slipper is a big one. And maybe that does
tip the balance,
weaken them, but it takes away experience and etc. What's interesting to me is the Springboks. I suspect they probably would have made a bunch of changes anyway because that's the way Rassie Erasmus is thinking these days, but 10 is a lot. 4 of them, yes, are injury enforced. Peter Steph du Toit is a huge loss.
Yeah.
He's one of the best all-round forwards in the game, and they
question.
lose a lot from him. We know they've got great depth, but he is an absolute elite world-class player. They lose their 2 wings. They've got wings to burn. I don't think it matters which ones they put there, so they don't lose much there. Khaleesi's the interesting one because there's a lot of talk that you hear people saying that Khaleesi is a great captain, not necessarily a great player. I don't think that's entirely fair. I think he's been an outstanding player, maybe a little bit past his best, although he looked good in the first test, the way he took that try, but I don't think you can underestimate the importance of his presence on the field as a leader. He is a galvanizing figure in this team, and I guess he is a real centre point of this team that is so reflective of a game that once divided South Africa now unites them like nothing else. And I think he is so important in that regard. So that is a loss, even if he isn't quite the player that he's been at his peak. As for the other changes, I think there is a bit of a dial back here, that maybe they revert to type. There's a definite look of bomb squad, more so this time about the subs bench when you consider that Etzebeth and Dayaka are going to come off the bench, just to name 2. And as you say, Pollard, so probably going to see a bit more of a revert back to that ruck to kick or kick to ruck ratio that we talked about, that they've gone away with a bit. So they're going to revert to type to try and get the result. I think that's going to make them really tough. But as I say, we never write off the Springboks. But then I wouldn't write off Australia as well. I wouldn't presume that this is going to be an automatic bounce back and turning of the table. South Africa will still have to play really well to achieve that.
All right, let's finish on the Women's World Cup, which kicks off this weekend. And I was talking about this with Lachlan yesterday. There's some amazing stat where they haven't lost for 28 games in a row or something like that. And the last loss was to the Black Ferns in the final here. But then you go back another 28 games before that, Tony. So they've only lost one time in about 50-something games, 56 I think it is. And that was that World Cup final loss. So what happens? Do the Black Ferns do it again? Because the only game they have to win against England is that one in the final if we make the final, right? And I don't know what sports psychs are involved at the moment with that English team, but I suspect that this is an issue and they're going to have to get their heads around this issue. I'm sure they're trying to downplay it all the time, but it is glaring, isn't it? When that's the only loss you've had is in the biggest game of all.
Yeah, and that will have hurt, and that'll have been hurting some of them for 4 years, because they had it there. They had that, remember that line out, right close to the New Zealand line, and the audacity of the Black Ferns to put a jumper up instead of trying to defend. If England get that ball from the line out, they win the World Cup final. Yeah, the way. So that will have hurt. They will wake up in the middle of the night and think of that, and they'll have been doing that ever since. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, because we've seen, World Cups can do funny things, and we've seen it in the past. I mean, Japan beating South Africa in 2015, or go back to 2011 and Tonga beating France. Don't take your eye off the immediate target. And they've got a tough one first up. They take on the United States, who early on this year, that's certainly not the strongest American team that they've had, but I'm sure it's the first game. They'll be well revved up for it. That one's Saturday morning. And of course, then we wait for the opening game from the Black Ferns, which is against Spain. But look, Ireland are in the mix. Canada are in the mix as well. So much as I think everyone's anticipating a New Zealand-England final, and why wouldn't you? You can't totally take that for granted, because there are potential hiccups. Perhaps not a lot of potential hiccups, but there are 2 or 3 teams in there that can get in and upset the mix as well. So it'll be fascinating to see it unfold. What is great is that the crowds are going to be enormous. We were very proud of what we got in terms of turnouts, including a record crowd for the final here in New Zealand. That's going to be eclipsed, and it's going to be eclipsed pretty quickly. Massive crowds expected for the final in particular. The possibility of a sellout at Twickenham for the final, but other games as well. So, a lot to look forward to, and the waiting's almost over.
DSPN.